I hope they negotiate something that's acceptable.
Saudi Arabia's defense minister reportedly said that if the U.S. backs off the strike, that will only embolden Iran. What's your reaction to that, sir?
Some people think that, some people don't. You could make a negotiated deal that would be satisfactory with no nuclear weapons. They said they should do that, but I don't know that they will. But they are talking to us, seriously talking to us.
The warning landed like a thunderclap across the Middle East, Iran's highest authority openly declaring that any American strike would not be contained, but would ignite a regional war stretching far beyond its borders. Those words instantly raised the temperature in a region already crowded with rival forces, fragile ceasefires, and unresolved conflicts. The message was not subtle. It was designed to deter Washington by signaling that the cost of action would be shared by allies, neighbors, and global markets alike, transforming a bilateral standoff into a much wider crisis. Iran's leadership has long relied on this kind of language during moments of pressure, but the timing matters. The Supreme Leader's warning comes as U.S. military assets move closer to Iranian waters and as diplomatic channels flicker between public threats and private engagement. By invoking the specter of a regional war, Tehran is attempting to frame itself not as the aggressor, but as the last barrier preventing chaos. The argument is simple: strike Iran, and the shockwaves will spread through the Persian Gulf, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and beyond. For Iran's domestic audience, this rhetoric reinforces an image of defiance and strength. For regional rivals, it is a reminder of Iran's network of influence, even if that network is not as robust as it once was. President Trump, for his part, has refused to take military action off the table. Instead, he has leaned into strategic ambiguity, a posture that keeps Tehran guessing while reassuring allies that the United States is prepared to act if pushed too far. Trump's statements walk a deliberate line. On one hand, he emphasizes that negotiations with Iran are ongoing and serious. On the other, he makes it clear that diplomacy is backed by force. This dual-track approach has been a hallmark of his foreign policy style: pressure first, talk second, and always leave opponents uncertain about the next move. By declining to rule out strikes, Trump preserves leverage, ensuring that talks, if they happen, do so under the shadow of credible consequences. The physical expression of that leverage is visible at sea. U.S. naval movements toward the region continue, with aircraft carriers, destroyers, and support vessels forming a powerful presence near key waterways. Trump has personally confirmed that these ships are moving into position, describing them as large, capable, and ready. Officially, the buildup is framed as deterrence, a signal meant to prevent Iran from escalating or miscalculating. Unofficially, it serves as a reminder that the United States can project force rapidly and decisively. For Iran, these warships are both a provocation and a constraint. They limit Iran's room for maneuver while also feeding the narrative of American intimidation that Tehran often uses to rally domestic and regional support. Despite the sharp language and military posturing, Trump continues to stress that his preference is a negotiated deal. He has repeated that his core objective is to ensure Iran never acquires nuclear weapons. This focus allows the administration to present its actions as defensive rather than aggressive. The message is that Washington is not seeking war for its own sake, nor is it aiming to topple the Iranian government outright. Instead, it wants verifiable limits on Iran's nuclear program and changes in behavior that reduce the risk of conflict. By emphasizing diplomacy, Trump positions himself as willing to make a deal, even as he applies pressure to shape the terms of that deal. Questions about Iran's nuclear progress add urgency to the situation. Recent satellite images have drawn attention to activity at Iranian nuclear sites that were previously targeted in strikes attributed to the United States and Israel. Analysts say the images show reconstruction and new structures being built over damaged facilities. To some observers, this suggests Iran is attempting to restore capabilities or conceal the extent of past damage. To others, it indicates that Iran's program has been set back but not eliminated, reinforcing the idea that time remains a critical factor. The rebuilding effort complicates the narrative, raising doubts about how much progress Iran has truly made and whether negotiations are being used to buy time. Military experts note that Washington has a wide range of options that fall short of full-scale regime change. Limited strikes on nuclear facilities, cyber operations, and targeted actions against specific assets are all possibilities that could be employed to degrade Iran's capabilities without triggering a total collapse of the state. Trump has shown little appetite for the kind of open-ended interventions that defined earlier conflicts in the region. Analysts argue that unless a clear and stable alternative government existed, pursuing regime change would be risky and costly. As a result, any military action is more likely to be calibrated, focused on specific objectives rather than sweeping transformation. At the same time, uncertainty clouds Iran's negotiating intentions. Publicly, Iranian officials adopt a defiant tone, dismissing American threats and insisting on their right to self-defense. Privately, however, there are signs that back-channel communications may be taking place. Experts caution that Iran has a long history of using public rhetoric as a shield while quietly exploring compromises behind the scenes. This dual approach allows Tehran to maintain credibility with hardliners at home while testing the possibility of de-escalation abroad. Whether these quiet contacts are serious or merely tactical remains an open question. Power dynamics across the region also shape Iran's behavior. Loud statements and dramatic warnings play well in regional politics, where perception often matters as much as reality. By projecting strength, Iran seeks to deter adversaries and reassure allies, even as its actual leverage may be diminishing. Years of sanctions have strained its economy, and its influence in places like Syria has been challenged by shifting alliances and external pressure. While Iran still maintains ties to proxy groups, its ability to fund and direct them is not unlimited. These constraints suggest that some of Iran's most aggressive rhetoric is designed more to preserve status than to signal imminent action. Several analysts describe the Iranian regime as weaker than it has been in decades. Internal dissent, economic hardship, and reduced regional reach have all taken a toll. In Syria, Iran's position has been complicated by competing interests and the presence of other powerful actors. Against Israel, its threats have become more constrained, with recent confrontations stopping short of full escalation. Financial pressures have also limited support for allied militias. This relative weakness does not make Iran harmless, but it does influence how far it can realistically push a confrontation with the United States. For these reasons, many experts place a low probability on the outbreak of a wider regional war, despite Iran's dire warnings. They point to past episodes in which Iran responded to strikes with measured, symbolic actions rather than all-out retaliation. These responses were designed to save face, without crossing thresholds that would invite overwhelming force. The pattern suggests a preference for survival over escalation. While miscalculation is always possible, especially in a crowded and tense environment, the prevailing view is that both sides understand the costs of uncontrolled conflict. Taken together, the situation reflects a familiar but dangerous balance: sharp rhetoric paired with cautious calculation, military pressure matched by diplomatic signaling. Iran's warnings aim to deter, while Trump's ambiguity aims to compel. The naval buildup underscores seriousness, even as calls for negotiation leave a door open. Satellite images add urgency, analysts debate intentions, and regional dynamics constrain choices on all sides. The risk lies not only in deliberate decisions, but in accidents and misunderstandings that could spiral faster than leaders intend. In this moment, restraint and clarity matter as much as strength, because the line between deterrence and disaster is thin. If you want to stay informed as this story continues to unfold, remember to hit the subscribe button for more future uploads.